Why is no one talking about this? We're starting off the episode with some discussion about Faker. Also, this episode, Riot, they got a big problem. We will get to it in the world's portion. That is timestamped if you're looking for that. 2024 LCS changes. Travis Gafford came out with a really interesting video. Although he's not reporting all of the things in it, he is predicting. And those who know Travis Gafford knows that he has usually pretty good predictions. I guess you would call them educated guesses, perhaps. Lots of interesting stuff in that to discuss. And then, of course, BDS and Golden Guardians will be facing off in like 2, 3 days or whatever. That is really hype. We talked about it a month ago, but we're going to revisit just because, well, it's pretty damn hype. We even got some really good stuff in quick news. So, tons of stuff to get through this episode. Episode 140 of the Clown Fiesta podcast with Blue Jay and JNT 250. Jinter, we're back, man. It was
We're
like a month
back.
off. It was terrible. It was so long, but we're back.
Yeah. I've been getting back into the swing of things, league related for the last week now, and the anticipation is exponentially growing by the day.
Yeah,
I
I
am
want to get
getting
into
quite
the
excited
Faker.
for this Monday match.
I want to hop into the Faker stuff, but just real quick, it is so bad. Like, I hope they never do something like this again. It's just so weird having a month off of like no league related things. It's so wonky. Maybe that's just us biased because we do a podcast around it and it feels awkward for a month, but that was shit. Anyways,
I've had
let
CS2 to distract me.
yeah, fair enough. Okay. Okay. Why is no one talking about this? What are we alluding to? For me, it's possible, and I know people are going to think I'm being hyperbolic here. I'm not. It is possible that this is Faker's last Worlds. And hear me out before you think like, oh, this is just crazy. Because a lot of people might say, well, isn't every Worlds possibly his last one? Or couldn't you say that about any player? First of all, not every player is Faker. Second, this year is a little bit different, and it's mostly to do with the wrist issues that Faker was dealing with just a couple months back, right? Now, I don't want to make it sound like this is for sure his last Worlds. That's not what I'm trying to do. However, we've seen players that have issues with wrist, excuse me, that have wrist issues that have trouble getting back to their form or have trouble maintaining a longer career. And Jinter, as you know, I've dealt with wrist issues for a long time now. It's always in the back of my mind, but I'm not crazy here, right? Like you mentioned just the other day, or maybe even today, we were talking about Uzi and like how he never really looked the same, right?
Yeah, even, don't don't look at it as black and white as this could be Faker's last world championship as it pertains to his entire career. Like, who knows? At the very least, maybe there could be a break. We just mentioned Uzi. Uzi had to take a 2.5 year break from wrist issues before he ever got back on the Rift, let alone became the Uzi he once was, because honestly, he never did.
Yeah. Sometimes those things fester for a long, long time and it can completely alter someone's career. Now, the reason why I think it's so important to bring it up is because if it was, in fact, his last Worlds, which again, I'm not even saying it's likely, I'm just saying it's possible. If it was, I think it would be so tragic if it was, but no one knew that we were watching him potentially for the last time on the world stage. That's what I think is so important to hammer home. Like, we don't know. He could be dealing with those wrist issues as we speak right now because he's probably grinding for Worlds, right? So that's why I think it's so important to be like, hey guys, let's acknowledge that this could be the last time we see Faker at Worlds. And I think when people are watching Worlds or just watching T1's games, they can really get an appreciation for what they might be seeing for the last time. I don't think that's too crazy of a thing to say.
It's definitely a possibility, and I think it's one you have to consider, especially when you look at the length of Faker's career. Considering this will be his 10th. Well, I guess should he continue to play, he'll be going into his 11th professional season. It's pretty insane when you think about it. There's really only a couple other players in league history that are around that same, length of time played. I think it's really only Deft and Rookie maybe as well is thrown in there. Like those are the only pro players so I can think of that I can remember, and at the very minimum 2014, let alone 2013. So
How long has Xiaohu been playing? Not that long.
no, definitely
I
for
mean,
a
a
long
long
time.
time, but
I just
long.
wouldn't trying to think who. I don't even know if he was the Starhorn Royal Club mid laner when they were in
Mm.
2014 Worlds, but that's we don't need to go that far down this path. But
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of, I mean, if people can think of any players, let us know in the comment section, ones that we might obviously be missing. But the point is, this is something that's really significant. And I think when it comes to like traditional sports, you kind of get a warning, right? Depending on who the GOAT is in that particular sport. Like Tom Brady in the NFL, for example, there was multiple years where people were saying this could be the last year, this could be the last year, this could be the last year. However, and even though many times it was not his last year, it was probably nice for the fans to know that this might be my last time watching this historical sporting thing happen, right? I know for me being Canadian, I know people are gonna be like, yeah, hockey, duh. But yeah, for me, I was like 6 years old when Wayne Gretzky retired, and I didn't realize at the time because I'm 6, right? I didn't realize like, oh, I'm watching Wayne Gretzky. You don't get an appreciation for how awesome this is. Well, this is the time to recognize it and be able to, take it all in and just say like, wow, I get to watch the best player ever, the GOAT, hands down. There's no discussion that anybody else is the GOAT right now, and really be able to appreciate it before it could be gone, right? It's really one of those things that you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And that's why I'm surprised that I haven't heard any discussion about it. Mind you, I realize that just because Blue Jay didn't hear anyone talk about it doesn't mean that it didn't exist. There could be other people. I just haven't heard it. I haven't seen any Reddit posts. I haven't seen any tweets. Let's understand that this could be historic, and just enjoy it while we have it, I guess is the main message that I want to get out there.
And there's two sides to the coin. It's what if he struggles and T1 doesn't look that good, and then it comes out that Faker was struggling with wrist injuries, during the off season or the boot camp. I mean, and then you look at it from the perspective of, hey, what if they just go out and win the damn thing, and then Faker's like, I'm out of here. I am cemented as the GOAT. There's no longer
Okay,
a need.
but how amazing. I know we say this every year about like how amazing would it be if Faker won Worlds again, but this year in particular would be so much more crazy just because of how much they struggled when he did have to step out for the wrist issues. He had to take a break. They looked terrible, and everyone was like, man, they really need Faker. He comes back. Of course, the T1 starts to pop off again, like as if he didn't need any more cementing that he's the GOAT. I mean, what can you say? Like, it would be way too amazing if he won Worlds this year.
I mean, this is probably the first time in Faker's career that he's coming into Worlds where he's not one of the top 3 favorite teams to win the tournament.
Hmm.
There's probably been Worlds where T1 or Faker wasn't necessarily the favorite, but this Worlds in particular, T1 is probably not within most people's top 3. I mean, who knows? Up for
It's
debate.
hard to say.
But it's pretty hard to ignore Genji being, dominating the LCK for the entirety of 2023, and then BLG and JDG beating everybody else. So,
Yeah.
just feels hard to put T1 above 3.
And even though I don't have an answer for that right now, I definitely will next week because we'll talk about that more next week once all of those teams, the tournament favorites, will be playing. This week it's more BDS Golden Guardians and then play-ins discussion. But I promise we will have takes of something about those teams next week. That should be an interesting discussion to have about who the actual tournament favorite is, and then the maybe second or third in line, and then Dark Horse and all that stuff. We will have those discussions. Before we move on, because we're going to talk about Golden Guardians BDS, I just want to remind people to subscribe and want you to know that this is a weekly podcast. Some of you that are new to the channel, you need to know we do these episodes every week. And we are now a Worlds podcast for the next, month or so? Usually this is an LCS podcast. We are a Worlds podcast. This is a good time to subscribe, let me tell you. This is usually the time. Well, first of all, Worlds, duh. But second, this is a lot of the time where off-season rumors are put out. So like we cover all of that stuff. It's definitely subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. That helps us with the algorithm. You guys are usually really good with that, and we appreciate you all for it. Jinter, BDS, Golden Guardians, let's revisit this topic that we had like a month ago. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even remember really what we said about it, but I don't know about you, I'm fucking hyped about this series.
It's definitely, like I said at the beginning, the anticipation has been growing. I think at first I didn't really care for it just because I wasn't in the league mode at the time. Like the league season was ending and like we were entering the downturn. But now, since we're full on and we're back, I'm definitely excited for it. Definitely is going to be a good kickoff to see. I think we said it even in our conversation in our last episode. Bragging rights between NA and EU, and I feel like that's going to be the best way to start the tournament, just because it's going to stir up a whole lot of opinions going into the the play-in stage and the main stage.
And it's technically not Worlds, right?
Well, yeah, this is the World's Qualification Series, or whatever the official term for it is, the WQS or the WSQ, but
it's so Worlds though, isn't it?
It's the first game of Worlds. It doesn't matter what it says, it is the first game of Worlds.
Yeah, and I think not only is it like the start of Worlds, but the reason why it's so hype is because, my God, have our regions been starved of fighting each other, right? These are the rival regions, if you will, right? NAEU has been like the classic everyone from those regions wants to watch those games. Yes, we've been smacked by EU a million times. It doesn't phase us at all. And finally, we're getting, well, more of it. We get some NA versus EU, just not a lot. And I think that's why it's so hype, is because for some reason the tournaments for years have been put in ways that obviously NA and EU don't have a lot of teams that move on, and so we don't get to really play each other that much.
Hey,
That's changing this year.
if the recent matches indicate anything, NA has the upper hand. You look at Mad versus EG in 2022, and you had C9 and Rogue in 2021, and NA's coming out on top on ever since Worlds 2021. So all I'm
Small
gonna
sample
say.
size, but yeah, some recency, but
It's
it is
like,
true.
yeah, it's not that. It's like 4 games. That's not that small.
Yeah.
One tiebreaker
Uh,
game and then a 3-0.
I mean,
Better than 1 game. Better than 2 games. That's all I'm saying.
I won't argue. Yeah, NA greater than EU, I'm all for it. Okay, let's start talking about. I don't want to do a huge deep dive because again, we did talk about it a month ago, but I just want to revisit a little bit. Let's talk about mostly the X Factor. There's been a lot of discussion about who the players that are really going to decide this series are. So let's just get into that. Do you want me to start, or do you want to start with that one?
Well, I feel like there's one obvious one that we can kind of start off the conversation with, which whom we probably both are thinking of,
Mm-hmm.
and that is Adam in the top lane, also known
Absolutely.
as Chatham to the LEC enthusiasts over there. At times, obviously, because sometimes there's what's the opposite of Chatham? Because there's like caps,
Uh,
there's craps, and there's claps. There's Chatham, but what's like the bad version of Adam?
it's got to be beta something,
I'm
right?
not. I'm not as well versed. So
I'm not
whatever
clever
whatever
enough.
that version is, there's the two sides to the Adam coin.
Yeah,
Batum.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Adam, perfect. That dude, okay. I know I said I was sleep deprived before this episode started. You should have been able to come up with that. That's not that difficult. Twitch
Uh,
chat has spammed Batum for so long. How did we not? Oh man. Oh, it's gonna be a long episode. Okay, thanks, Luxy, for that might even be
Adam
a call out,
Sandler.
actually. That
I like Adam
that might even
Sandler better, I think.
true. True. Okay, yeah, so definitely Adam, but that's mostly just because of his play style, right? That's why everyone talks about him, because he does play some wonky ass shit. He plays really aggro, and when things don't go his way, he'll just dip and he'll just go to another lane and say fuck it. So that's why you don't really like, you expect a lot of volatility out of him specifically in the top lane. Not to mention Licorice had a really good playoff uh for Golden Guardians. He was, to me, their best player. I think a lot of people would agree with that he was their best player in playoffs. And so um live and die by Adam on BDS side of things, but he's also got a really big test. People would argue, seeing as Licorice has been really good for the last, what do you, I guess, summer split, really.
It's in spring playoffs. Licorice has
Yeah,
been,
true.
you know,
Because his
the
MSI was
best
pretty
top in
good too,
NA,
right?
basically.
Yeah, his MSI performance was really good too. So there's that. Um, the other X factor that I want to throw, so he's obviously the one from BDS. From the other side of things, you would think that naturally it would be Licorice, but for me, I don't think it is. I don't think it's the guy that's going up against theirs. I think it's actually Gory, just because the night and day difference that we saw out of Gory this summer split was pretty crazy. Like, to me, he was one of the best mid laners, maybe the best in regular split. I know
I
a lot
think
of
we
people are gonna
both
hate
had
that.
them as, I think the both of us had him as number one All Pro,
Yeah, I know.
above the
People are
likes
gonna
of
hate
JoJo.
that. I know people are gonna hate that, but I mean, I did think he had a better split than JoJo. So yeah, I mean, feel free to go off in the comment section. But playoffs, it wasn't not the case, right? Gory did not have a good playoffs. He cost his team a lot of leads, cost some games even, and I that could even be argued that that was happening towards the end of summer as well. I can't remember exactly when all of it happened, but the point is, we saw big differences out of Gory, and like, I don't think like. This is no disrespect to Nuke. I don't think that lane will be dictated by Nuke. I think it'll be dictated by just how good or bad Gory will be. Because if Gory shows up and is bad, I do think Nuke is more than good enough to take advantage of that. However, if Gory's firing on all cylinders and River, who ganks really heavy and gives a lot of attention to his lanes, these games can get out of control real quick. So that's what gives me like confidence for the size of Golden Guardians, but I can't just pretend like everything's been great, because there's a reason they're our fourth seed and not automatically qualified.
I mean, similar to Gory, River was struggling in the summer playoffs for Golden Guardians, and he was a person whom many people were saying should be deserving of MVP votes. People thought that he was the MVP of the league. People thought that he was actually better
Yeah.
than Blabber in the summer season. I know we didn't share that opinion, but there was probably a good chunk of people who did. And I think
Yeah, I think I had Blabber as the MVP, but I do still remember feeling that it was 1A, 1B as far as junglers were concerned. Like, I did not feel like River was far behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people their consensus top three was River, Blabber, and Jojopyun, and there was a, I think there was a pretty equal breakdown of ones who had Blabber as number ones, people who had River number one, and people who had Jojo number one. But like you
Yeah.
said, there's a reason why this team was underperforming, and a lot of it has to do with both River and Gory. And I think I kind of lean towards the River side of things, just because I feel like I'm so used to River being the early game, happener for Golden Guardians. He's the guy who's making plays in the first 10 minutes of the game. You always kind of want to get him on a champion that can make a big impact at level 6. You always think of the J4. You think of champions that he was playing when he was looking really, really good in the end of spring split and the beginning of summer split, the Wukong, the Vive, the stuff that just has that go button to engage fights. And River's going to have to get back to being the old River if Golden Guardians wants to, you know, be in this series.
Yeah.
Because I'm
And
telling you, Golden Guardian shows up how they did in the last 2 weeks of NA playoffs, they are going to lose to BDS.
yeah. It's pretty interesting. Because I think the same can be said about Golden Guardians as a whole. The same thing that I said about Gory, that like the difference in what level of gameplay you're going to get could be very, very different. And Golden Guardians could have been our number one seed going into playoffs. It was very possible that they were our number one seed and somehow ended fourth.
They were
So
the
that I
consensus
think
number
that's
2 team, and people thought that they could rival Cloud9 in the playoffs, and here they are sitting as
yeah.
the 4th seed.
I think that's why North American fans have so much confidence in Golden Guardians. It's just like, guys, we can't forget that, yeah, they were maybe supposed to be 1 or 2 seed, but they're still not. And it wasn't just because of Gory. It wasn't just because of River not looking so great in playoffs. The bot lane didn't look that great either. Who he was not himself. So, like, there are some definite reasons to be not 100% confident in Golden Guardians, even if we give them the edge. Do we want to do series prediction?
Yeah, honestly, I was planning on going back and listening to our predictions previously, but I didn't get around to that, so I don't remember what we predicted.
Uh
So
oh.
I'm hoping
I
I'm
don't
not
know either.
I'm hoping I'm not flip flopping on my prediction here because I'm pretty sure I remember picking GG 3-2, and I'm
I
gonna stick
know I
with that.
said I think I said Golden Guardians. We might not have given a score.
Oh, hmm.
I didn't go back and listen either, so I don't
I
know.
want
I'm just gonna
I got a feeling that I might have said 3-2 and you said 3-1, but we also might not have given a score, so I'm
I
not
am going
exactly sure.
3-1.
Well, I'm going
I am
3-2
going
Golden Guardian, so
Okay. Who is this series bigger for? Like, who get
I
like,
th-
if it's a win, is it bigger on Golden Guardians side or BDS's side, or the loss even? You could look at it two different ways. Like, this could be a really big win or a really big loss. It feels like both of those are true.
I feel like the win. Oh, I think both sides. I think the win is bigger for BDS, and I think the loss is, the loss is bigger for Golden Guardian. So that outcome of BDS win and GG loss is the bigger story. Because you look at BDS and you have a bunch of players on this team who are relatively new players to international competition. In Sheo, Nuke, Crowny. I think has he ever played at an international event?
I don't know. He's been around a while, but I don't
I
remember
know
him
he's been around
making
so
it.
long. I just wonder if he was on one team that ever made it.
I'm not
But
sure.
either way, Labrov was on. He was on what team was he on? He was on Vitality when they made Worlds or something, right? I
Yeah,
think.
that's the only thing that I'm remembering is Vitality. I don't know
Yeah.
if he was. I don't know if they went to Worlds when he was there. I couldn't tell you.
Anyway, but you have this one side of BDS, which is basically a bunch of new players plus Adam, who's kind of trying to rebuild his reputation after the whole Fnatic debacle. And then you have Golden Guardians, who's all proven veterans, and a team that was slated to be a number 1 or a number 2 seed for the LCS and dropped all the way down to 4th. So they go out and lose this. It's looking pretty stinky for them.
What's so interesting to me is like, for the longest time, Europe has just been better than North America. Let's just call it what it is. And there's always been confidence from the European side when going up against North America, and for good reasons. Generally, their teams have been better, so I get that. And what's so weird is like, this is the first time that it feels like North America is coming in all confident,
That's what I said,
and
dude. NA's got the edge last 2 years.
the results of this are just going to like, it's going to prove one side so wrong. Sorry, as I hit my boom arm. It's gonna prove everyone so wrong. Like the thoughts that like there's just going to be absolute devastation no matter what side it's on, right? Because Europe has for the longest time said better than NA, and then they started to lose. I think last year in play-ins they lost to Mad Lions lost to EG, right?
EG. Yep.
Yeah, and so now NA's getting these victories, and we're starting to pick up steam, and we're getting some
3-0
confidence.
sweep.
But if BDS wins this series, everything goes right back to where it was, it feels like. And I feel like
Yeah,
Europe
it
will
definitely does.
yeah. Yeah. And then from the other side, European fans have to like accept like, "Oh my god, were we wrong all this time?" if they lose. So it should be really I think yeah, there's so many reasons to be excited and for this series to be fun, but I think that's kind of what it is. It's that the results of this series will have these regions feeling incredibly different, and it's just one BO5, but it's like the stakes feel so high. Luxy in the live chat says, "Has EU been better? Historically, yes."
I
Um,
feel like your like Fnatic is always pretty much just as good as G2, ignoring 2019.
yeah, there's been a couple of years where the number 2 seed out of Fnatic is not or excuse me, out of Europe is not to the level of their number 1 seed. But there's been a few years where it's like number 1 and 2 are both really damn good.
And
And sometimes even 3.
season 9 worlds, all 3 EU teams had made it out of groups.
What was the
And
year
A
where
barely gets
Fnatic's bot
one.
lane What was the year where Fnatic's bot lane was just absolutely insane? They were
2020.
like
That
best bot
was
lane
yeah.
in the world
That
nearly.
was when Reckless Hilly was the best spot at Worlds.
And
100%.
even
I will ride that, point to my death.
the year Perks was 80 carry, that bot lane was fucking dangerous too. They were one of the best bot lanes in the world. What year was that?
That was season 9. That was when G2 made finals.
Yeah, they were insane. So, like, anyways, yeah, EU historically just better than NA. Maybe not in the last year, right? Because last year at Worlds, Europe didn't really do all that anything special.
Neither did
A lot
NA,
of
so
them, yeah, exactly. But a lot of people meme Europe for just moving on with because of the what's the item called Hex Drinker bug,
yeah,
right?
the top esports scam game
Yeah, and
broke
if
the
not for
salty.
that, then a lot of people would say that Rogue or whoever the hell it was, wouldn't have moved on.
Yeah, it
So,
was
like,
Rogue.
I could see more recently, why people might think, like, has EU been better? Maybe not as much recently, but, like, historically over, like, the course of League's existence, just yes, flat out yes.
Mhm.
But yeah, anyways, should be really interesting. Anything else on this series, Jinter?
Um, I don't know. It's gonna be if it's gonna. I just hope it's not a 3-0. It'll just be a sad 3-0 either way if it happens. Honestly, it just
I
better be
don't
a
know how we're
banger.
gonna do an episode next week if Golden Guardians loses because I've now predicted them to win
No, no,
twice on
no.
this show.
Even if BDS just 3-0s, it's still kind of sad. Like either 3-0 outcome would be sad. I just want a good series.
No, Golden Guardians needs to smack them.
I mean, that'd be the preferred outcome, but it doesn't really matter that much to me.
Okay, all right. Okay, assuming one of these teams obviously moves on from this series. Assuming either team is in play-ins, it feels like in the play-in stage that either one of them should move on, right? Like if we're talking about which teams should move on in the play-in stage, it should be one of the whoever wins this match in between them, and then plus one, which I think most people are going to say PSG, just because historically that team's kind of been like the best play-ins team. Even at MSI, was it 2021 or whatever? They were like even better than Cloud9, whatever year that
Yeah,
was.
they had a better
Like they really showed
record.
up at MSI.
They were they almost beat RNG and at MSI when RNG won MSI.
That was the first year that people realized, like, oh damn, this region's actually fucking good.
Yeah,
Now, mind you,
because
it's not all the same players.
they had made it to Worlds 2020 and they had done well, and then they basically proved in 2021 MSI that it wasn't a fluke, and then they've
Yeah,
continued to be at every international tournament except for one since Worlds 2020.
yeah, that was that MSI 2021 was the year where like people started talking about like, oh, should there be more than just 4 major regions? Because like this region starts to be, and then I mean, admittedly, they kind of fell off a bit, but also they lost a lot of players, did they not?
Well, yeah, the people recognized that this team was good, and then a lot of their players started getting
Yeah, the
imported to other
classic.
regions. NA took it. Gory and River, those guys both played on PSG. Maple,
True.
Maple played on PSG. I think he's back there right now. But
Yeah,
he
that's
was on
right.
PSG, went to TSM, and now he's back on PSG.
Yeah. There's what I've noticed when I was looking at the list of players from these. First of all, these teams we've seen them all before, right? These are like the only one that I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember is
Team
like the Wales
Wales. Yeah,
one.
Team Wales.
Yeah, but even Wales, they have Bean J. I remember that
He
player.
was on
I can't
Saigon Buffaloes.
I cannot forget that name. But I guess what I like about it though is that even though most of these teams don't move on a lot of the time, GAM did last year. They were in groups, and we've seen DFM did a couple of years ago. Most of these teams don't move on generally, but it is kind of nice to see the same players come back again because it does show. Even yeah, the regions are weaker, but there is some fandom that's built around seeing these same guys every year. And I don't know. I guess I just find it a little bit more interesting
That's why
that we
people
get to see
like
the same
DFM
guys
so
make it
much.
back.
That's why
Yeah,
people
like
like DFM.
Unipon's been there forever.
And the team has been similar to PSG ever since the team basically took over the LJL. They've been at every single international tournament except for one or two. They didn't make Worlds 2020, and maybe they didn't make one of the MSIs, but since 2018, that team's been epic. And you look at some of the other teams from the other regions who are starting to become repeat international appearances, Loud and R7. R7, this is like the fourth or fifth time they've been in an international tournament in 3 years.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I like Loud is back. I remember
Yeah.
Robo and Tinones. You know what? The sad thing that I remember about Robo is like I remember thinking last year this guy's trash, and then they go to analyst desk and they're like, "Man, Robo looks really good out there." And I could not tell you what the hell champions he was playing, what matchups he had, or anything like
He
that.
was playing
I
a
just
bunch of
remember
random shit, I remember.
I just remember having the exact total opinion as all of the analysts on analyst desk. So I don't know. I guess for that reason alone, I'm gonna have my eyes on Robo, but like I don't think Loud's any good. No offense to Loud.
Yeah, I think obviously for people who are just maybe watching this for the first time ever, you're not going to know a lot of these teams. But if you have watched some of these international tournaments over the last 2 to 3 years, you will recognize some of these teams because there are a lot of people, I feel like, who go into Worlds and they maybe can't find the motivation or the rhyme or reason to watch a Plains game because you don't know who the players are, but you'll probably recognize a lot of these players.
Flying Oysters were there last year. That's a name you can't really forget either.
And now Team Wales. Let's go. That's another
Yeah,
iconic name.
yeah. R7, they weren't always Movistar, right? They were just R7
I
or something.
think, I don't know. I'm not sure, but
I don't know
they've
for
always
sure,
been
but
R7 at least.
I think R7 was the team that Jose Deodo played for before
Yeah, he was.
he came to NA. Okay, yeah, yeah. Anyways, I don't really have any hope for these teams getting out, honestly. Just PSG alone. Although, again, DFM did make it out. Was it last? No, 2 years ago. So like, it's not completely done for. Even GAM and CFO were both in. So I don't want to make it sound like it's all decided. But these are all pretty weak teams generally.
Yeah, I think you'd have to imagine that the favorites are going to be PSG and then one of Golden Guardians or BDS. Obviously, GAM is probably the team to look at for a most likely upset. DFM as well, but it's gonna
It'll
be
be
difficult.
pretty it'll be pretty embarrassing if either BDS or Golden Guardians get knocked out.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, if they get knocked, I mean they could go to the lower bracket obviously, but if they get knocked out, it'll be rough.
it almost feels like it's way less likely for that to happen because let's say BDS or Golden Guardians for some reason show up looking like shit, like whereas they would normally just be seeded right into this and then fail. There's almost like that stopper because of the qualification thing, right? Like neither one of them can be bad and also make it into this process, into this play-in stage in the first place. Does that make sense? Like it's possible that they look good for one BO5 and then turn to shit in play-ins. It's just really unlikely.
The one thing that I think is really good about the playing stage now is, and I think this is also true of the main stage, which I guess is now the Swiss stage. There's just more games, and more games is going to be a lot better for the teams and the players who are actually at the tournament, especially the playing teams, ones who maybe aren't as acclimated to international play and need to get those stage jitters out. And you're just going to have more games to play and improve, and I think that's going to do a lot, pay some dividends for these teams who make it out of the playing stage for the first game of the Swiss stage. When if for the play-in teams that make it out and move on to the Swiss stage, you're going to have played as potentially as low as 10 games and as many as 22 games if you played the maximum of every single possible best of 3 and best of 5, and losing best of 3s to drop to the lower bracket and then winning out.
Sorry,
So
just for clarity, you're saying the 22 games would be if they made it out and then played a bunch of games, right? In Swiss, you're saying, right?
well, no, that's if for Golden Guardians and BDS I'm talking about. If
Oh,
they,
right, right,
because
right.
they're
Okay.
also playing a best of 5 before. So I'm saying for Golden Gardens and BDS,
Right.
they could be playing as many as 7 games. Sorry, they could be playing as many as 10 games or as many as 22. So there's like a ton to be gained from the play-in stage, and I think that's going to be, that's again part of the reason why it's good to pay attention to this part of the tournament.
Yeah. Well, technically, either one of those teams could play just 3 games. You know what I'm saying? Let's pray that doesn't happen.
Oh well, in the
Um,
Swiss stage, yeah. You're talking.
no,
What are you
I just
talking about?
mean when BDS and Golden Guardians play each other, it could be 3-0 and the tournament's
Oh, I'm
over.
telling you, no 3-0. That'd be sad.
Okay, confirmed by J&T, not happening.
Not happening.
Nothing else for me to really add about play-ins. I'm not doing a deep dive into play-ins. I'm not going to pretend like I've watched all these teams. It's just not happening. I don't think anyone wants to hear us do a deep dive into play-ins anyway.
Yeah, just there'll be some names of some players you recognize, and it's. I mean, also if you watched MSI playing stage was epic. There was a lot
Yeah.
of best of threes going on where it was not necessarily like a 2-0 sweep. It was G2. I think they went 2-1 against Loud. PSG went 2-1 against somebody. Golden Guardians took a game off BLG. Like, it'd be epic.
Okay, let's get into some of the other world stuff, some of the news that came out around worlds. What are we starting with, Jinter?
Um, well, I don't know. What was the first thing I guess we were going to discuss as it pertains to Caedrel, because it does also affect Worlds 2023, obviously,
Right.
is that Caedrel made an announcement that he's going to be switching from being a full-time caster to be a full-time streamer slash co-streamer.
Yeah,
And
and
Riot
this is
made an
relevant.
yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Riot made an announcement, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago, that the entirety of Worlds 2023 will be available to be co-streamed by a select number of people, whom were the usual co-streamers of, uh, the summer split and the spring split of, NAEU and whatnot.
So the only thing that I'm wondering about it is because we looked at the list and some of the people I don't recognize their names because, well, especially for the other regions I don't, but also like Sapnap, for example, has he been co-streaming the LCS the whole year? Like,
I
what
have
is
no
the deal with
idea.
that? Like, I'm
I,
curious about that.
I have no idea. But who was it in Sonic in our Discord yesterday actually told us that Sapnap apparently is a co-owner of NRG.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
if that source
probably
is
the
wrong,
reason. That's probably the reason why he's getting co-streaming rights. And like you said, honestly, I have no idea if he was co-streaming in summer. But
yeah. And if Sonic's wrong, then we're not calling out Sonic at all. No, it was just Reddit. It was someone on Twitter. Just blame somebody else. Um,
yes,
Okay, but this is interesting. I do think it's a good thing, first of all. I do think that the more options that people have to watch Worlds is a good thing. Same thing with LCS when it's on. I do enjoy the co-streams and stuff like that. The problem that Riot has here is that all of the good talent, like the really good talent, no offense to like Media Sneaky or anything like that, but like Caedrel is really, really good on as a caster, right? As he was. But obviously, this is not a new trend, but we see that you can make so much more money streaming. And so the problem that these leagues have, or Riot has generally with allowing co-streaming all the time, is that you're just going to lose all your best talent. And it's like to me, it's still the best case scenario to have as many good products available as possible, so that people get to pick and choose how they get to watch. More options, the better. But like it probably hurts the main broadcast a lot by losing these people. I mean, we lost Dash this past year. We had him just for finals. Obviously now Caedrel, and then even Shocks wasn't around for some time. And you notice the broadcast is different. And even though those people go to co-stream and make way more money, not all the viewers follow them. So the main product is kind of hurt by this. And I don't really have a solution. I have no idea what you do about that.
yeah. I mean, there's a ton of prime examples over the course of the last maybe 6 years, 5, 6 years, we could say, where prominent members of a broadcast around the world switch from casting to full-time streaming, and it obviously is the much more lucrative option. So you can't necessarily blame those people for going out and doing it. I feel like Caedrel is kind of following the LS blueprint here. Like Caedrel is basically doing the exact same thing that, Caedrel is doing the same thing that LS was doing, and considering what we know, what everybody knows of LS and how much time he's dedicating to streaming, it's clearly um, lucrative.
Yeah. And I don't mean to like this is not about trying to shit on the talent that's left available for the main broadcasts, but like you're regularly losing these people for different reasons. Caedrel, the co-streaming Dash, I don't know. They didn't want to pay him. We still don't really know the full story there. Um,
Whack.
yeah, I don't know that's going to hurt the main broadcast, and that's a problem that I don't know what you do about that. The only thing you could do is say no co-streaming, and then Caedrel has to come back. But if you do no co-streaming, you're probably going to upset a lot of other people that just won't watch altogether. I don't know what the problem is, and I don't even know how, or I know what the problem is. I just don't know what the fix is to that problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that money seems to be decreasing in esports, specifically surrounding North America at the very least. And I think we've heard on many accounts on the Riot side of things that they are, while League is still very prominent, it is something that they're not necessarily throwing a ton of money into. Maybe, probably, they're not definitely not throwing as much money as they were in, like, 2014, 2015, 2016, when League was absolutely booming. So the only way to stop this is, to probably pay more money. But in the current climate, that's difficult.
The one thing that they do have going for them is that some of the talent is so good, but also wouldn't translate to just a stream on their own. Like Caedrel obviously can, but
Hmm.
like Azale, for example, I've said it many times. Azale is my favorite analyst. I think he is fucking amazing, but I honestly don't think that he would be that great on his own stream. He doesn't seem like a sit at my computer and co-stream kind of guy. So that's one of the benefits they have, is that I guess the only real solution is find the people that are only really good on the main broadcast and don't like translate to their own stream. 'Cause,
I mean,
I'm
the
sure
one
Azale has streamed
person
before, but
the one person I'd be worried about is Captain Flowers. Like, that guy gets a
yeah,
decent amount of views, especially when he's like doing casting for like those random like meme
he'll
tournaments
cast
or
bronze games
yeah,
and he'll
and he'll
have like
get like
2K viewers.
dude 100%, and he'll, yeah, exactly, he'll have 2K viewers, just shittily, like not shittily, like shittily, like on purpose casting bronze games. And when he's doing, like, what did he cast recently? What was it called? The
The
DSG
toast
event.
thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that had a lot of viewers, and part of the reason why it had a lot of viewers is because of the people who were involved with it, and people knew that there was
Yeah.
going to be casting for it. And imagine a guy like Captain Flowers doing his own sort of co-stream on Worlds where he's doing like meme casting. Like, he can actually, like, the running joke with Captain Flowers is like helicopter dick with like the Jaxie. He always
Yeah.
talks about that on stream, and he says how he wishes he could say that on the LCS broadcast because he's just so passionate about that. And I just imagine that sort of environment being like an entire co-stream, and it's something that I think could end up being really popular and really funny, and a lot of people would watch that. And I think that's something that Riot, should view that as a bit of a problem. Imagine if
And
imagine if the LCS lost Captain Flowers, it would straight
that's
up
yeah,
die.
right.
Like
We're
the
hurting
cat.
for casters right now. Like this is not a good time to be losing casters. Yeah, no, I share the same concern. Um Although Freak recently got a promotion, so that's bad for us, right?
Yeah, that now he's definitely not coming back.
I know. It's like I didn't even really have any reason to believe that he was coming back anyways, but like maybe just like natural internal copium was just like Freak's gonna come back. He's just pulling a Jet. He thinks he wants to be on the balance team, but then he's gonna be like Jet and realize I don't really like this that much and go back. And I don't think that's gonna happen. I think Freak loves League of Legends way too much and loves the balancing and all the numbers way too much to leave. I just hope he really misses casting because he was getting fucking good at that too.
It was no
Yeah,
secret when I constantly said for about a year that I thought Freak was the best caster.
what's so weird about Freak becoming such a good caster was that I don't think he was for so long. Like I thought he was a good caster. I just didn't think he was one of our best. And then the last 2 or 3 years of his casting, he really took off. He got really, really good at it.
Yeah, I
And then
mean,
we lost
the
him.
Riv was kind of like the staple in the early parts of League, and then Captain Flowers took the torch in 2017, and then Freak was kind of the number two always, and he kind of just became a number one, or as good as a number one.
Okay, but Pastry will come back, right? Because he's doing that shit where he's
I
asking
mean,
players about
hopefully
noodles.
they need him. Yeah, I think he's really good. I thought he was super underrated all the time. Like, I just thought he was
I
really good.
I'm saying I was the first one to say that. I think Pastry was so good and just so unrecognized for how good of a caster he was. Someone get the word out to Kate or to Pastry rather. Uh, Bring him back. Bring him back, please. Okay, what other stuff is happening in the world's news area?
There
Oh, we
was the
were talking
World
about
Song.
broadcast talent, right?
Oh. Okay.
Did we want to mention any of that? I don't know.
I jumped the gun here accidentally with the image, but we'll put it away.
I don't really have much to add to the broadcast talent. They made a tweet. The only thing that we were saying yesterday was kind of notable was that Hysterics, who was pretty disappointed without making it last year, is back. But I think for the most part, everybody else is back,
Well, he's not
right? Is there
back, but
anybody else that?
he's here.
Yeah. Sorry, the rest of the people they're back minus what? Just Freak? Is there anybody else that I'm
Yeah, pretty
forgetting?
much the broadcast talent is almost exactly the same as it was last year, which I think is good
Yeah.
because the lineup was really good for Worlds 2022, and they basically added the best LPL caster. And as you said, one whom was disappointed that he didn't make it at Worlds 2022, and so was a lot of the community, especially the LPL viewers.
Yeah. Okay. You were gonna mention the world song. Lots of
Yeah,
differing opinions on the world song. I'll just come out and say it. I like it. I'm not gonna
I it,
pretend I
it's
love it,
growing
but
on me.
I think I like it way more than the community seems to like it.
Yeah,
But
honestly, it's growing on me. I think when I first watched it for the first day, when I slept on, it, I was like, yeah, it was pretty good. Like the music was all right, and the video was really good. But like on rewatching it a few times, like feel like it's a lot better than I thought it was initially.
can a world song be measured by how many times it takes to listen to it before it's stuck in your head, or is that just fake news?
I don't know. It's always weird when we talk about the world song now because we had this whole thing with Rise in 2018 where it just absolutely blew up and it popped off because and deservingly so because the song was really good and the video was really good. And then I feel like Riot sort of like latched onto this idea that they needed to make like the players the focus as opposed to the storytelling because it then flipped to like all the worlds like the videos and whatnot afterwards always flipped to players whom they thought were going to be in the tournament or players who they knew were going to be in the tournament.
Yeah,
And then
true.
you had especially the last 2 years they were kind of awkward how the music, like the video and the song was presented. Because in 2021, you had like Reckless in the video, who was everyone assumed was going to make Worlds because he was on that super team with G2, didn't make it. And then there was 2022, which happened, which who was
I don't even remember. Was Bjergsen in that?
well, it was like it ended up being a really weird cast of people because a lot of the teams who were supposed to make Worlds didn't end up making Worlds.
I
And
don't
everyone
remember who was in it, but that's just because last year's I hated the song. I didn't like the video really. It was just like maybe that's why I enjoy this year's so much is just because I really didn't like last year's. And I know last year people didn't like it that much either, but I really just I think I hated it more than most people. I just thought it was terrible. But I also realized that like I'm not the kind of guy to make good takes on music when it comes to world songs. Like if I had my way, it'd be Billy Talent doing the world song, and I don't think anybody
Jesus.
else gives a fuck. So, yeah, I'm not the guy to go to for what the world song should be. All I
It
can
just
say is whether I like it or not. And I mean, it was in my head after just two listens to it. I was like, oh man, that's. I mean, it's gotta say something. It can't be that bad if it's already that catchy.
Yeah, I think after Rise, it felt like they were trying to be a bit too creative, and then with this one, they just were like, let's just copy paste Rise, and they did a really good job of it, and that's kind of exactly how I feel. Like it's a copy paste of Rise, but it's its own thing, and it's really really good.
Luxy says Core JJ. Was it Core?
Oh yeah, he was in that. It was like Humanoid, Core
There was
JJ.
people that were on like the big
Yeah,
champions,
yeah.
right? I
It
remember there was a
was
Thresh,
there
there
was a
was a
Nazir, it was
Nazir.
a TF, and it was a Rel or something. It was yeah, it was Core, Chovy, Humanoid, and somebody else.
Hmm.
Maybe it wasn't Rel. I don't know.
Anyways, I like this year's. And like everyone's in agreement. The video is great.
Aw.
That is. I think everyone's in
I think
agreement
the
with that,
video
right?
is actually better than Rise. I'll say it.
Ooh, hot takes.
I think so.
Maybe I'll have to go back and watch Rise again, but yeah, maybe.
Like I think there's like I
Curious.
think ignoring the nostalgia of Rise, I think this video is better than Rise.
I'm not supposed to be laughing when I'm watching this video, but Carrie is getting fucked up in this video that I
Oh, it
just
was
kept
so
laughing.
sad.
Carrie's over and over
Poor
again.
boy.
Why did they do that to? I mean, I know why, but it's still hilarious, anyways. Carrie was having a rough go of it.
Yeah, I mean the landscapes are pretty epic. It's hard to say, but I think I like this video better.
Yeah. I don't know where to place it amongst like, rank one, two, three, four, five. Like, I don't know, but
I mean
I would
Rise
say
is still
above.
one for me.
I would put this one above average.
Yeah.
That's where I would
I,
put it.
I mean, Rise is still number one because it's the song in tandem with the video. And so, like, in my opinion, that's never going to get beat. I don't know. This one's probably up there. It's like, I'm trying to think of the other ones. Legends Never Die is up there. That's one of the top ones.
I
Then
liked
Phoenix.
Phoenix. I liked Burn It All Down. I liked
Probably,
those
I'd
ones.
probably put this number 4 behind Rise. Then, I guess, what about Warriors? Warriors in 2014 was also pretty good. This thing is like 4th or 5th for me. 4th or 5th out of 11 now.
Damn.
It should be 11, right? Because 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13.
I don't know how long they've
Yeah,
been doing it for.
11.
I'll just take your word for it. Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I had never even heard of New Jeans. Is that
Yeah, I hadn't
Boomer?
either.
Is that just Boomer Blue Jay being Boomer Blue Jay, or is that just
I don't
Western
know.
Blue Jay?
I think it's one of the newer K-pop groups that's popular because like I knew like what's the other one, like Blackpink. I know that. That's a pretty like I've heard of that.
I don't know, but if you ever told me like, "Hey, you're actually gonna like a K-pop song," I would have been like, "Are you sure?"
I mean,
Like,
pretty
I
much
don't know.
all of the songs have been K-pop songs for the last 5 years, except for the Lil
Yeah,
Nas X one.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you, so I don't know. But anyways, pretty good. I like it. And I also think it will grow on everybody else. I think it'll grow over time because even last year's did too. I mean, I'm not going to pretend it did on me. I just did not like it. But even last year, people at first said it's shit, it's bad. Play it on 1.25 speed. People
Dude,
were coping hard because they like Lil Nas.
unironically, it's better on 1.25
I
speed. It
it
actually
did not
is.
make any difference for me. The only thing
Also,
that it
play
did
it
is it
on
made
your
the song
Nintendo
end
3DS at
it
300%
made the
volume.
song end it made the song end quicker, and so I guess I'm in favor for it. Yeah, well, 2 times speed for me. Uh, yeah. I got nothing more to say. Good job, Rito, for once, even though most people will still hate you no matter what.
Okay, last thing
Uh,
we have is the pick'ems.
Pick'ems.
We're not
We're
going to
not
go
going through
over all.
everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. We're not going through all
Okay.
the pick'ems. We're just going to go through the champion ones and the event ones because the other 2 pick'ems pertain to majority of players and teams who are going to be playing in the next stage of the tournament. So, if anything, we'll talk about them next week.
Okay, so
Yeah,
who will
and
be
in
played the
classic
most?
fashion, Blue Jay has not seen what I have picked for mine, and obviously Blue Jay had to send me his, so I know his are.
Yeah, I'm observing here.
So
So
I'll read it out for the audio people. For my own, I had honestly I can't even read the text.
just do one at a time. So for now, we'll just do who will be played in the most different roles. You have Poppy and I have Gragas. So I'm wondering, because like I don't even know who I would have play Gragas support, but
Mickey
it's
X.
happened.
Mickey X. He's
Yeah.
Carrier. Plays
Okay.
Gragas.
Perfect. So I'm already feeling better about my pick already.
Mickey X also plays Poppy support, so that's why
That
I have that
okay.
one in there.
I was going to ask if you had someone in mind that would be playing Poppy support, and then obviously, well, I guess Poppy
Well, and
mid. I
then
don't know about that. Who
I
plays
think
mid?
Delight has also played some Poppy, and then there's Lehens, obviously.
Yeah, you may as well put Singed on there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And obviously,
okay.
I'm assuming that it's getting played jungle and top. I mean, top. Honestly, I feel like there's not a lot of champions that we're going to see 3-rolling. I think there's probably going to be only 1 or 2 champions that end up getting picked in 3 roles. And I think it happened a lot more in previous years, but I think this year especially, it's going to be not a lot of multiple roles because I feel like especially with junglers, it was pretty common practice to see a lot of junglers going either jungle top or jungle mid. I don't think we see that as much anymore. So that's why I think the jungle support one is going to be the main thing. And then it's can you fit it into a third one somehow? And I think I'm seeing Poppy top lane and you're seeing Gragas support. I mean, Gragas is 4, honestly. So
That's why I went with Gragas. I was like, I need him to be played in
I
all
still think
4
Gragas
roles.
solo lane is still dead after the passive changes because the pick rate just absolutely bombed. So
Niski played it a lot though, right?
yeah, but that
And
was
I
when
know
it
I realize
was
it was
good.
I understand that, but when you play something so much, there is always a chance you go back to comfort. Also, I thought I remembered Wonder playing Gragas top a fair bit.
Yeah,
Again,
but
probably when he was
like I said, I'm not.
stronger.
I wouldn't be surprised at Gragas top. Like I'm thinking, the only reason why I initially didn't say Gragas 4 roles is because I discounted mid. because I think Gragas mid is not going to be a thing.
Okay. And so you're not expecting anybody to pull out the Poppy mid either.
No, I was not thinking about Poppy mid.
Okay, I don't know, because maybe
I
for this you're trying to pick 4 role.
don't
Like
think I've
when I
ever
looked at
seen
this,
Poppy mid. I don't think I've
when I
ever
looked at
seen.
this question, oh, I bet you it's happened. Man, we used to see a bunch of weird shit mid. We've seen like Scion mid,
Nah, pro
Renekton mid. Why
play?
not
Nah,
Poppy?
no way. I don't.
In
I
pro
think I
play
would
we
have
saw
heard about it.
Renekton mid.
Yeah, but not Poppy. That's what I'm saying. I
Oh
don't think
yeah,
I've ever seen
yeah.
Poppy. I'm gonna look it up now all time. You've made me want to look it up.
Bet you Faker's played it.
No, I bet you hasn't.
Yeah, we would remember if Faker played it. The only other pick that I thought of, the only problem is like we haven't seen her in so long, is Seraphine. There was a time where Seraphine was being played everywhere, where she was support and AD. Again, like maybe even Senna, but Senna's not going to be played in one of the
Okay,
other
it's
roles.
apparently in all of existence, it's been played 10 times.
Whoa, that's a lot.
I can't get the breakdown. Okay, this is random. We're like getting sidetracked here, but who do you think has played the most Poppy games all time? If you can, but if you think of it, you'll know it instantly.
Peanut?
That was a good guess because he's number 2, but it was
Oh.
Vizichachi.
Vizichachi? What do you mean?
Pre rework Poppy, bro. He played the shit out of that.
I could have sat here for a decade and I would not have said
Bro.
Vizichachi.
Man, he's like,
I forgot about him. No offense.
that's why I said if you think of him, you'll be like, oh yeah, it's him 100%. That was a good guess though, Peanut. He's number 2.
Okay. Anybody else that you think are honorable mentions for being in all 4 roles?
I don't
Or
know.
in 4 roles, or I guess 3 or more, I suppose. It doesn't have to be 4.
Not sure. Like I said, I expect it to be very rare that we see a 3-role one.
There was one year where Seraphine was broken and she was being played support, AD, or I guess bot, and mid, and then I think top as well. But
No,
that's
I
just
never saw it top.
that's not. I bet you the one year it did happen, because well, you don't have to look that one up also. But anyways, that was the only thing I could think of. Is just how long has it been since we've seen Seraphine? But okay, what is the next one? We got who will be picked the most during Champ Select at Worlds. You have Rel, I have Renekton. Now, I'll admit. Oh my god, Luxy Bear points out Pike with G2 2019. Okay, but that's not terrible. But again, it's been a while. But that is a good honorable mention, but it has been a while. Okay, back to the most picked. I thought Rel got some nerfs. Am I
She got
making that
a
up?
very small nerf. She got
Okay,
one
so
very
nothing all
small
that
nerf.
significant.
Yeah.
And
And she was
Rel,
like the highest presence champion in pretty much all of playoffs.
I think it's a good pick. As if she didn't get a big nerf, I think that's a really good pick. I just went with Renekton because it feels like, first of all, Renekton is strong and has been for a little while now. But second, like it just feels like anyone can play Renekton. Doesn't it feel that way? And we've even seen times where it does get flexed mid for some random reason. Like I guess for those reasons, I was like, Renekton's OP. Everyone can play him top lane, and sometimes they just shuffle it over to mid. I could see Renekton being up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Renekton's like been slowly getting better and better. So I think some of the high pick rate that we've seen is going to start to translate to an increased ban rate.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get into that next, because for what we had most banned, you had Talia and I had Kaisa. I almost put Renekton there.
I
I almost
think
put Renekton in the most banned and put Kaisa as the most picked, but I was like, I don't know. I feel like we might see one 80 or 1 or 2 80 carry bands, like just trade the 2 most OP 80 carries.
I
And
think
so that's why I
Kaisa's
ended
the
up
bait
putting Kaisa as
champion,
the
man.
ban.
I think Kaisa will once again be the bait champion. Like it was in 2018,
Interesting.
it'll be the bait champion again. It's just gotten nerfed too many times, and especially when you look at Worlds where the meta will change and develop over the course of the tournament, I think that it will, and I guess I'm talking both on stage and in scrims. I think initially when teams are probably playing and scrimming, Kaisa is going to be obviously remain a top tier pick. But once the meta starts to be known and evolves and starts to get figured out, I think then is when you're obviously going to see Kaisa get dropped for a lot of other ADC picks.
Okay, I want to get back to the Kaisa thing in a second, but I notice you have Talia on there. I did not consider Talia. Has she gotten a lot of buffs?
It's
that I'm unaware of?
purely based off of, I went on Game of Legends and looked at the stats the other day for the play on the patches that were after 13-14. Because LEC played season finals on 13-15, and I think there was also like some other random minor regions playing on 13-15. and Talia was second most banned champion. So I'm just doing a bit of extrapolating here.
I see. Okay.
Literally,
Is
and
there
I
any
think
like?
she has been getting slowly buffed. That is the other thing. In tandem with her getting slowly buffed for the last, I think she's gotten like a couple small buffs over the last like 10 or so patches. And
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
she's a dual pick champion as well.
That's true. I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anyone in mind that you're like, oh, this guy's going to go far in the tournament, and people are going to have to ban it away from said person?
Hmm. I mean, I guess I hadn't thought of that, but I'm just thinking of a lot of the mid laners that we were seeing at Worlds, and a lot of them, and all of them pretty much play Talia. Like
Yeah.
Caps
That,
plays a
for
bunch of
some reason,
Talia. Faker
the
plays Talia. I mean,
Gory
all
is
the
the first
Korean
one
mid
that comes
laners
to
play
mind for
Talia.
me,
Every
but
Korean mid laner plays as champion.
I just don't know how far Gory's going to go in the tournament. But he was the first guy I thought of with Talia because I know he played a lot of that this split. Okay, and then we have total deaths. Most total deaths. We both took the Nautilus. Uh,
It's the obvious answer, but it's also the right answer.
so you know how I said I wanted to get back to the Kaisa. That the reason why I picked Kaisa as most or why I almost put Kaisa as the most picked was because it could go with the Nautilus, who I need to die a lot, and that was one of the reasons why I almost put Kaisa as the most picked because those two get put together so much. It's probably a pretty bad strat, not gonna lie, that I have Kaisa most banned and then Nautilus most deaths. That seems like counter synergy, but I just think that champion stinks. I don't like it at all. I think you hook in, you're dead. Like, okay, this is Nautilus player, okay? I'm Nautilus. Oh, I got this guy. Oh, I'm dead. The end. That's Nautilus gameplay. I don't like the champion. Yes, he points and clicks. I get it. I understand why point and click is valuable. There are other methods of CC in the game that you don't automatically die. I don't like that champion at all.
Other champions I thought of putting there potentially were also just Rel and Renekton. Renekton, because I think it's just going to see a lot of play in general, especially from the lower tier teams, and especially teams who are probably going to be punching up in games or matches who are thinking, oh, we must take the Renekton, but then they're going to get shit on because of it. So yeah, he was the other, and Rel obviously just because I have Rel being the most picked. So in considering she's going to be a jungle or support, probably those roles end up dying a lot. So if I wasn't picking Nautilus, but I just think the Nautilus inting is too strong to overcome my other picks of Renekton or Rel.
Okay. Anonymous, thank you for the sub. Much appreciated. Last thing we have is who will have the highest rate? What is that one? Highest win rate. So this one you need to have at least minimum 5 games played. And Wallace Lam in the live chat says, I have not been watching games, but Gangplank, what the fuck? Fair thing to say, but what you need to realize is, first of all, GP I think is actually a really solid champion already. But two, you don't want something that's going to be played too much. So I hope he's not too OP. You want something that is probably only going to be played 5 to 10 times. I don't know if GP got any buffs or whatever. I have no fucking idea. But we did not see a lot of GP. We saw enough of it. That seems like a champion that is always gone back to on comfort for guys that are really fucking good at GP. I'm hoping Bin carries me in this category. He was the guy I was thinking of. I was like, Bin is going to, chain some barrels together and maybe pick up 4 wins and have one other person pick up one on the champion and hopefully have a 100% win rate with 5 games. I also would not be surprised if GP is just hella broken because I don't know. GP does feel like he could be slotted into so many different metas. We see him come back all the time. So if I get this one wrong on GP, it's in good chance that GP's just become meta and played too often to have such a high win rate.
Yeah, I went with Lilia. The champion's just really good, and it started to sort of see a little bit of play towards the end of sort of playoffs and finals and whatnot. Kind of it. Lilia just. I mean, I played a good amount of Lilia, and so I kind of. The champion likes to
It's a niche
function.
pick.
The champion likes to function with a lot of melee tanks on the enemy team, and that's a lot of what's being played these days in the meta. You're seeing a ton of Cassante, Jax, Renekton in the top lane, stuff like that. A lot of tank utility junglers, Sejuani. You sometimes see there was like Rel jungle, Nautilus jungle, stuff like that. So I think the champ's just really good into what's going to be meta, and there just are the types of players who are going to pick Lilia, like Blabber picks Lilia sometimes, Yike picks it, Peanut picks it. I want to say I've seen Owner play it. I'm pretty sure he has a few times. So
I think the Lilia pick's interesting. I think it's a good niche pick. Again, you want to go for niche picks. I think if you had to argue against mine, it might just be not niche enough. But that's an interesting one. If I thought it could get 5 games, maybe Belveth. I know Yike plays that. I don't know if it would be played 5 times though. That's one that would probably only get 1 or 2 games if I had to guess.
Yeah, feels like a bit of a risky pick considering that champ is so like well, I guess literally feast or famine.
It's risky, but has G2 ever shied away from risk?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. And maybe I just have too much faith in G2. Like everyone definitely says they're the best team in the West, which I don't think there's any argument there. But is the best team in the West currently good enough to play and win against teams in the East? That is a whole nother question. So maybe Belveth wouldn't
Yeah,
be
that's
that
that's
good.
a
I don't know.
question for next week.
Yeah, yeah, true. What else did we want to cover as far as the pickums go?
Oh yeah, we had the event pickums. I gotta pull mine up. Realized you can read out the first one and say what your was.
Uh, it was how many reverse sweeps will there be at Worlds out of 9 total BO5s? So I guess that would not count BDS Golden Guardians, right?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Uh, yeah, I just went with 0. Is that boring?
It's not boring considering
Aren't
that
those like super rare?
the first reverse sweep ever in Worlds was last year DRX EDG.
What?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Really?
Pretty
I
sure.
mean, I can't pretend that I have one come into mind, so I can't say otherwise, but that is wild if that's true. Um, I just think people think they're more common than they are because they're very memorable when they do happen, although I say that and I can't remember anything.
Wait, might be the second star. Was KTIG a reverse sweep?
I
Might
don't
have
know.
been. It might have been the second. Sorry.
So did you go 0 also?
I went one just for the. It's kind of a just. Obviously,
More
everyone
of
was
a
going to pick
wishful.
0. Yeah, everyone was going to pick 0.
Yeah.
So I think I just went with 1.
And yeah, I could see one happening, but they are super freaking rare, so I took 0.
Oh
The
no,
other one we had, the
KTIG
next thing
wasn't.
is
I think this. Yeah, it was the first one ever last year. Sure.
that's crazy. Next up was what will be the duration of the longest game at Worlds? I went with 50 to 54 point or 54, 59, mostly because of Salt. Last year I took this one and I did not make it. And I remember thinking the game should have gone longer than it did, and it didn't. So I'm just running it back, hoping that it hits this time. That is my reasoning.
Hmm.
What do you
I
got?
went with over 55 minutes, and that was
Over
purely
55. Damn.
it's purely just because the play-in stage is now bigger and there's more games being played than the previous years. So the only
Oh,
reason I
okay.
say that is since there's going to be more play-in games, there's a slightly more likelihood that it's fiestaing. And although long games are super super rare, like you're never going to see the like 60 plus minute games that sometimes you would see at Worlds. You know, you think of the C9 versus Flash Wolves game, the Fnatic versus LMQ game. I think one of the Samsung T1 games from season 6 was 60 plus minutes. You can't really ever see that anymore because objectives just get so snowbally towards the end of the game. But I'm just banking on 1 Giga Fiesta,
Okay. I like the logic
even
there
though it is
anyway.
quite rare to see long games. I think like average game time is like 31 minutes these days. I don't maybe it's ticked under 30 now, but it's been getting so it's just getting been shorter and shorter.
Yeah, that is a long shot, but I do like how you're thinking about more games though. Okay, and then how many pentakills? You know what I'm going here. I went with 3 plus. Like
Yeah, of
give me all the
course. Yeah,
pentas.
especially with the plans. Another reason.
I am penta hungry.
I think this one
It's the
player got 2
easiest pick.
pentas in plans last year. I think right. I think
Yeah,
The Saigon
sure.
Buffalo ADC. I'm pretty sure got 2 pentas. But
I don't have any clue,
oh
but I
wait,
just
that
want
might have
pentas.
been MSI actually. Maybe I'm not sure.
So what, you go 3 plus also?
I did 3 plus also.
Okay, Drake, I went Hex Tech. It's just a guess. What'd you do?
I did Cloud Drake.
Okay, cool. How many Baron steals will there be? I went a little psycho on this one also. I don't think they're that rare. So I went 9 plus.
I did too.
Okay, let's go. We're all for the Barons. There's not that uncommon, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why I think that Baron steals are more common than people think is I remember when we did the few times that we've done the prop sheet for the podcast, whenever we were trying to math it out, how many Baron steals, it was always more than what we thought it was. and
Mm,
that's the logic that I'm following. They just, while you think they're uncommon, when you actually count them out, they're actually more common.
yeah. So I had a few reasons. I was just thinking about some of the champions that are played that are really good for steals. Um, Lee Sin, I think, is actually supposed. I've heard that Lee Sin is really strong right
I
now.
have
I've
heard
even
that
heard
as
that Lee
well.
Sin might be played in multiple roles.
Yeah.
That he's that strong, but obviously he's going to be played. Well, I don't even say. I shouldn't even say obviously, but I'm guessing he'll be played primarily jungle. I could be wrong, but he's really good at stealing. So that's one. And like I think Syndra's really strong. She really helps with like getting the Baron down from the other side of the wall. So champions like that can poke. Uh, yeah, I could see steals happening. So you just full combo and throw a Lee Sin in there. I could see it
One
happening. So lots of steals.
you just said a champion that made me think I was going to say it was another pick I considered for most picked champion was actually Orianna, because there's a lot of
Oh,
people talking about how world's mid lane meta could end up being Syndra Orianna.
yeah.
And
I could see Syndra being most picked.
well, I think Syndra is always the the one that leads the dance in draft. So that's kind of why I figured maybe there'd be slightly more bans thrown the way of that champion. Because when you ban one, you kind of ban both of them sometimes. Especially, well, I guess not if the champions are meta, but if just the meta becomes Syndra Orianna. Like if hopefully that makes sense. Maybe I'm describing it in a bad way.
No, I think I get what you're saying. Okay.
Because like
Anything else?
sometimes Syndra Orianna becomes the meta, like just by default, as opposed to the champions being strong in and of themselves.
A lot of times that could just be due to the fact that like other lanes have too many OPs that those need to be banned out, and so like mid
Yeah,
lane
yeah.
just gets open because you're banning a bunch of
Oh
I don't know
well,
AD
and
carries or top
Azir
laners or
nerfs.
whatever.
The other reason why that is because of Azir nerfs. Like Azir,
Mm,
it's basically back to the buff, the same buff that made Azir get picked a lot, which was reducing the cooldown of his Q. They just reverted that, so he's back to what he was before 1311 when Azir was not getting picked very much. So
okay.
maybe he'll still get picked just because he's been in the meta so long and he's kind of become a default, and maybe people realize that he was actually better than he was before he got that initial buff. But since they've now taken away that buff, I expect Azir to drop off.
Okay. What else are we doing?
I think that's it for the world stuff.
Okay. Okie dokie. The other thing that we need to talk about now is LCS 2024. This is mostly or pretty much all focused around the Travis Gafford interview, which was really interesting,
Not
honestly.
interview.
What I said interview?
You
Video.
did, yes.
Whatever the hell. He does do a lot of interviews. Maybe that's why I said that. Yeah, so he made sure to say that like these are not reports, and in fact they are predictions. Although some of them he pretty much said, yeah, this is already true.
Well, the last thing
Um,
he did.
there's some interesting things in here. Some good, some bad. Let's start with the teams side of things. So he said that he thought either 2 or 3 new LCS teams would be in the league next year. Obviously, TSM has already been sold, so that's one. Um, is that crazy that it could be 3, or should that have been expected?
I guess I'm wondering who the third would be. It would have to be Dignitas. I know that Travis said in his
You always
video.
say Dig. Always say Dig. Does it have to be Dig though?
Well, I don't know. Like, I guess what Travis said in his video that he, and I think everyone would agree with, he doesn't expect it to be any of Cloud9, Team Liquid, FlyQuest, or Golden Guardians. Or is that what he said? Or Team Liquid,
No,
sorry.
he
Not
said
Gold. Sorry, what
yeah.
was it? It was FlyQuest, Team Liquid, Cloud9, and
NRG
NRG. Sorry, that's what I
because they
forgot.
just bought in. Yeah, NRG
Yes.
and Fly just bought in, and then TLC9, right?
Yeah. I don't know why I said Golden
Which
Guardians.
some of those teams that are left off the list of for sure staying was like,
100
damn,
Thieves, not on that list. That was
yeah,
surprising to
and
me.
yeah, and everyone knows the best way to judge whether a team is staying is by their summer fan fest booth, right, JNT? I'm sure we could all. That's the best way to measure, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But okay, I joke about that, but it is not a good sign when you're not trying at all to engage with fans, right? That's not a good sign.
Yeah. Who are we talking about here? We're talking about Immortals or are we talking about 100 Thieves?
That's yeah. Maybe there's 4 teams that'll be leaving. There's too many
Oh,
teams that just
because
don't give a
Immortals
shit.
Immortals didn't have a booth, and 100 Thieves was the worst booth.
Yeah, it was terrible. Um, we're joking, right? We just so people are clear that like no, the how much effort they put into their booth does not translate to whether they're sticking around in the LCS. But I don't want to pretend like it means nothing when you see people not trying to engage at all with their fans because a lot of times those are the teams that leave. I do think Immortals should be on the list of teams that are leaving. What I wonder with the Immortals side of things is like, okay, there was a bunch of discussion about whether they would just be pushed out because Riot can kick them after they finish bad for so long. They don't engage, they don't do anything. I wonder if Riot is kicking them out, but it's one of those things where it's like
They need to
it
find
looks
a
it
replacement.
not that, but it looks worse on Riot to just call out their team like or it looks worse on Immortals rather to have been known as an org that's been kicked out of a league before. Let's say Immortals in the future wants to join another league. It doesn't look good on your resume that you've been kicked out of another league, right?
Yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah, I
And
see what
from
you're saying.
Riot's side of things, it doesn't look good if like you're just kicking people out of your league. So maybe Riot's like, hey, we're
Yeah, it's kind of
kind
a
of gonna kick you,
lose-lose.
but can you just resign, please? It's like not wanting to fire someone and asking them to resign instead. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And I have no actual evidence. Just this is speculation. We always like to be clear when we're speculating here. I could see that being the case. That Riot's like, yeah, we won't kick you, but if you don't leave, we might kick you.
Mhm.
That's what I wonder. So, anyways, I think Immortals should definitely be gone. My other pick is not Dignitas. It is EG. And I'm going to skip ahead to point number 5 that Travis's prediction was that JoJo will not be on EG in 2024. On top of EG already going full budget in the middle of the year, not a good sign. Two, they got the really bad rep with the whole Nicole stuff, and it's not just Nicole. People really hate the org for all of the Danny stuff, which we don't have full evidence yet. Like the investigation or whatever hasn't been completed. But regardless, people do not like EG for that. And now hearing that JoJo won't be there, if EG was staying, even if they wanted to be budget, wouldn't they still want to keep JoJo if they could?
Remember, a prediction that he's not staying. We don't know that he's not staying.
Right,
Just a
right.
reminder.
Yes. Um, But like, does that not sound like a team that, hey, maybe let's sell this guy and then also sell our spot? With the other reasons of them going budget in the middle of the season, people hating the org because of what happened to Danny. Like in all these things being combined seems like a really good reason for EG to dip.
I mean, at the very least, I think if anything, the presumed JoJo buyout to whatever LCS team wants to get him is probably gonna end up funding their team for 2024 because
If
they
they're
have
around, yes,
all of
that
their
could be true.
all their players are not under contract anymore except for JoJo.
Yeah. But anyways, so that those were the other two teams that I have as front runners. You brought up Dig. Um, a couple reasons why I'm not saying Dig wouldn't leave because there are reasons to think they would, but I have a couple reasons as to why they wouldn't. First of all, the most important one, Beast booth at Summer Fan Fest. We got a that booth was the best.
Where's it at? Where's it
Clearly,
at?
but
Where's the diggy
I got
at?
okay.
Dude, it's not like
Here's
on your
Diggy.
desk. What's up?
No, I don't got enough desk space. I'll put them there for now. Okay, but in all seriousness, they actually tried this year by putting together a roster. Now, mind you, things did not go well in spring or summer. But when you sign Jensen and Santorin, mind you, salaries have been down. But when you're signing those players, you're not just going full budget, just hoping to get by, waiting to sell your spot. You're trying to win. So that is the only real to me good sign that like, oh, they actually care. And yeah, we meme about the booth, but like they did put effort into it. They made sure to have their players come and do a fan meet and whatever. Like it does seem like they care at least a little bit, which is not what I could say for some of the other orgs like 100 Thieves, for example, or Immortals or whatever.
That is,
So
to
that's
be
just
honest, that is definitely an indication to them not selling is when you do see the commitment to the league, and I think that's what people are talking about whenever people reference Immortals, because you do hear all the time people talk about they're not invested in the league, and people can say that, but what does that actually mean? And what it means is the rosters that you put together, your interactions with the fans at live events and finals and whatnot. The fact that Immortals literally did not even show up to the event. Not a single Immortal
Dig even
staff
had
member.
some Dig even had some good content this year too. What was the one video popped off, right? It was like the uh having Jensen and Santorin rate the players, but every
But
play was faker, but they didn't tell them.
all of that you are correct in saying is proof towards that it's probably not Dignitas, because why make such a big investment in, your league, like, the league scope of things if you're just going to pull out in 2024?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
The argument
I said from the jump that I thought it was going to be two teams, TSM and Immortals. I thought that was going to be a cut and dry, like easy.
The argument against that though is that like that's all that stuff that we said that was good. That was all just this year, and Dignitas has been pretty lackluster for lots of things before this year, right? So like, yeah, I don't know. Um, was there anybody else that like could? Oh yeah, Golden Guardians, don't leave. What the hell? Why? I want them to be on Travis's list of like I know they're not leaving.
They could go. I wouldn't matter as long as it's a good replacement, obviously.
Yeah. Uh. Okay.
Like the
What?
only the only of those listed teams that I would think would be a concern for the league is 100 Thieves. I would be very surprised to see that team not be in the league in 2024. Like very surprised.
Especially with how much they invested just this past year.
Of course,
I'll
double
say it
lift
again.
Bjergsen.
Yeah, salaries were down, but they did have to pay a lot still, I'm sure, for double if Bjergsen, even Closer. Like I know people are don't forget
They
Closer
brought
was
back
really, really good
someday.
before. Yeah. Before this year, Closer was really good. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's 100 Thieves leaving would kind of be sad, but at this point, it's just kind of things you got to accept. It's kind of sad when anybody leaves. The with the TSM news, I think most people are in agreement that like we knew this was coming, so that's fine. Like whatever. What sucks is
Let's go
for like
Shopify Rebellion.
the long term TSM fans, like that hurts because there were some around that stuck around, and that does suck. Um, one of the things that I think has kind of been gone under the radar with TSM leaving is um, the potential to get fans back is gone with them. Like, first of all, there was a bunch of TSM fans that just stopped watching, right? But it's possible that if TSM ever got their shit together and started playing well again, that some of those fans may have come back into LCS fandom. But with them gone, I feel like that's potential, like a loss of some fans that you'll never get back now. And I don't think
Maybe
I've heard anybody talk about that with losing TSM.
maybe this is just some negative thinking going on, but I feel like once you move past league, you don't really return.
Hmm. What do you mean?
So
There's been a bunch of teams that have returned. What do you mean?
no, but I mean like from a fandom and like from a fandom perspective like that.
Oh,
Um, and I guess the reason why I say that is I definitely don't doubt that if TSM became relevant again and became a good org, that their fans would increase. But I don't necessarily think that that's going to be old TSM fans who left and then came back. I think that's just going to be the natural fans you gain by winning, and the people who are in that middle ground of LCS fandom where they'll their loyalties
so you're
flip wherever.
saying they if they got good again, they would have found new fans rather than regaining some of their old fans.
Oh, well, I think they would have found new fans, and I think they would have found old fans that still follow the LCS, but I don't think they would get those old TSM fans who left League. I don't think that old TSM fans who left League would come back, and I think those are the fans you're referring to, if I'm
Yeah, that's
understanding
fair.
you correct.
It would maybe I don't know how to feel about that because I do think some of them would come back regardless. I think it would be
I
difficult
think you
to get a
might
lot
do
of
it
them
for in the
without with
I think they might come back in the short term, but it wouldn't be for the long term.
I was gonna say I think it would be difficult to get them back if you don't have your double lift, your Bjergsen. This year they had Turtle, but like if you have Turtle and succeed with Turtle, like that's a much different story of how many fans you can come back. Because I'm sure there's some old Turtle fans, right? Some long
Yeah.
time, but yeah, it is more difficult if you don't have double. God knows that ain't happening. Double lift ain't going back to TSM ever. And
I
then
guess
Bjergsen,
I guess the
another
last
one there.
thing there is to talk about with regards to the TSM news of them selling their slot to Shopify Rebellions is that the reported figure that TSM was sold for was 10 million, and that is from Kellen Browning, who apparently writes for the New York Times. Um, the reason why I guess if you want to say I'm calling him out here is because I have not seen any other source on this, and I guess what I'm saying by that is we don't necessarily know how accurate that is. Um, so yeah,
JNT's not buying it, folks.
it's not that I'm not buying it. I'm just not taking it for 100% the truth and a matter of fact.
I just have no
I just find
information
it
to
surprising that common and notable league sources and people have yet to say anything about this, but this random guy whom I've never heard of report on anything esports related in my life, he is all of a sudden saying that TSM got sold for $10 million.
That is
That's all
weird.
I'm
I
saying.
the only thing that I'll say is that I didn't go looking for like Jacob Wolf or Travis or anybody else to like say yes, this is in fact true. So I don't. Maybe somebody did and you just missed it. I don't know, but I have no reason to
I couldn't
believe that
find
it's
it.
incorrect. I have no reason to believe that it's incorrect until
I'm
I
not,
get
yeah,
other information.
just to make it clear, I'm not saying that it's incorrect. I'm just saying don't take it for matter of fact, like plus or minus whatever it might be.
Okay,
I would assume that he's in the ballpark for sure. I don't know if that would be the
okay, but
exact figure.
let's assume it is 10 million. Is that a good number or a bad number? Obviously, it's bad. Is
Well,
in like it's way down. But to you, is that like, oh, good? I like that team spots are only 10 million and they shouldn't be 40 million like they were, or do you want them to be lower? Or how do you feel about
I
that?
mean, when you reference that Echo Fox was sold for $33 million at the end of 2019, it kind of does look bad. I think it looks bad for the health of the league because that's obviously not a good sign.
Hmm.
Um, I guess I don't know if I really have an opinion myself of the value being higher or lower.
So for me, I think it's
I guess
there's
it's a bit better that the barrier to entry is easier. So that could be, seen as a good thing for new people wanting to get into the space. But at the same time, then you look at it from the perspective of, well, why are these valuations decreasing? They're decreasing
yeah,
for a reason, and
yeah,
that
because there's
is
less interest in the
also
league.
a reason to not want to buy into the LCS. So, while understandably you can buy in for a cheaper price than before, you're buying into a lesser product.
Yeah, so 100% agree. That is all true. I still think it's good that they come down just because I do want the barrier to entry to be lower for other people. I'm going to skip ahead to Travis's point number 6, which his prediction was that one influencer will join the league. Um, I think the influencers being involved in the league is really helpful to the league. I just don't think that when it was at $40 million, I don't think you had a chance of getting those influencers. You needed some influencers that had a lot of money, and I don't think there's anyone that I want to see in the league other than Mr. Beast would be the only one that would be able to afford that 40 million. I just don't see that happening. So that's
Well,
why I'm happy that it's no longer 33 million or whatever the hell it was. I think that if it's come down to 10 or even lower, there's a much better chance of influencers getting in. And if I had to guess, um, I'm flopping back on this now because I did predict that I did not think Toast was going to be in the LCS next year. To me, if Travis is predicting one influencer to go in, I think he's the front runner. Is he not?
who toast?
Yeah.
Well, I was actually gonna say no.
Okay. Who do you?
Um,
So we flopped on this now because I thought I remember you saying that you thought Toast would be in the LCS in 2024.
yes, and I think the reason why I have flopped is because Shopify Rebellion was the team that just joined, and Shopify
Hmm.
Rebellion just recently announced that they're partnering with Moist, which is Ludwig and Moist Critical's esports org, for their Valorant team.
Yeah,
So
they're my
I
number
just
two pick.
considering that they just joined the league scene, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them slap that MSX and have that be their tag and have Moist be basically the face of Shopify Rebellion, and Shopify Rebellion obviously, be the internal sort of aspect of the org. Because I think
Yeah.
from what I understood of Travis in this video, it was he made it seem very generalized. He said, it was like one influencer will join the league organizationally. He didn't say that one influencer will own a team in the LCS. He said one influencer will be involved organizationally. And I think
Yeah.
that can point to, kind of the partnership that has been talked about and referenced over the course of the last year, as a potential new way for influencers to join the league. So if I had to pick a front runner at this point, I think it would be actually Moist, because
Yeah.
they've
So that's my
already they're
number.
already in the Riot ecosystem, and they're working with the exact same team that they're doing in Valorant right now. So
So that is my number 2 pick because of the same thing you said, the Shopify thing. I thought there was going to be zero influencers in the LCS in 2024. Now, mind you, that still could be the case, right? These are predictions. They are not reportings yet. The reason why I thought it was zero is because I didn't think the price came low enough. And if there were to be one, it would be Toast just because of how much the LCS had been pushing Toast onto the broadcast. He obviously made a big splash in Challengers League, and then he went on Hotline League. Like all of these things are just things that I don't think you would just do alone. If there is a team that's joining the LCS, wouldn't it be the one that's been like really pushed in front of the fans? You get what I'm saying?
yeah, and
They made sure
I
to have him on at the summer finals broadcast. Like it makes me think that if there would be one, it would be the guy that the LCS has been putting in front of everyone's face.
yeah, I just think that where I guess I'm sort of following. I guess we're both sort of following the same logic of where there's smoke, there's fire. But just with with the actual relationship of Moist and Shopify and them already partnering in the Valorant League and them joining the LCS as of like 2-3 weeks ago, that seems more likely at this point.
Yeah. It's fair because 10 million is a lot. Mind you, it's still I even think I would say even likely that if it was Toast, that the LCS would be like, yeah, we'll cover some of that cost. Sort of similar to how they do with Valorant, right? Where people didn't need to pay 10 million to enter Valorant. Riot kind of covered costs. I could see them doing that to get a personality like Toast in the LCS that is pretty much mostly well loved by the community. I could see that as well. If Riot was like, yeah, it's worth us giving you or paying some of your entry fee to whatever team just because it brings more eyeballs to the product.
Um. Okay. Let's a couple of the other points as it pertains to the LCS that Travis said in his video were both that there was going to be major format changes and that there was going to be schedule changes. Now, I think that that comes at no surprise, considering the conversation around the LEC 3 split season and the rumor that was, I want to say it was on our last episode. Maybe it was not the last one, but the one before that, that there was a rumor that the LCS was going to adopt this format.
Yeah. Um I'm afraid for both of these. And not even because of the format change cuz like I don't absolutely hate the European format change. I prefer we didn't. But the main reason why I'm afraid for both of these changes is because I do get the feeling that Needham and Nas are involved in these decisions. And I've just lost faith in those two. No offense to them. I think it's great that they do interviews with Travis and they try to be open with the community. But after they actually thought that changing the games to weekdays made sense, and then after that was clearly failing, still thinking that no, we just should have had the games at 12 noon instead of 2 p.m., thinking that's the issue, I've lost faith in them understanding what the real issues are here. The real issues to me are incredibly clear that people can't watch during the week. You see so many LCS fans make it really clear that like I want to watch these games, I can't. And they're just like unable or unwilling to accept that feedback or something. So that's why I've lost faith in the decisions they make. And so that's why I'm afraid for both of these, whether it's schedule changes or format changes. I don't have faith that they know what they're doing to make good changes in either one. That's what I'm afraid of. The only schedule change that I want to hear is they're going back to weekends, but we don't think that's happening because Valorant's in the studio on weekends.
Yeah,
So
and I
that's
mean
why I'm like, this can't be good.
they kind of doubled down in the interview last in our last episode a month ago where we covered Travis's interview with Kako. What was his name? Kako and the other guy.
Uh,
He's the
I can't
new
remember his
like
name.
he's not the new commissioner of the league, but it's like he's kind of the new commissioner. Like
Yeah, I can't
yeah.
remember his
Anyway,
name.
in the interview with those two guys, basically, from what it sounded like they were saying, they basically were doubling down on their statements about not about having the LCS on separate days to other leagues around the world and having them at noon, and then how that was still their preferred time. They really only changed it because of the backlash. So I kind of tend to agree with you when it's hard to trust their decision making when they've been making a lot of changes in the LCS over the course of the last 3 years. You look at lock in, you look at Monday Night League, Friday Night League, having 3 days of 5 games, everything like that, and they've been seeming to be making the wrong decisions over the last 3 years. And I feel like we say wrong decisions because they've continued to make changes almost every single year now. And while it doesn't necessarily make them wrong changes, when you're constantly making changes, you give off the perception that what you're currently doing is wrong and that you are fixing something. So
Yeah.
whether or not these changes are actually good or bad, the fact that they continue to change things looks bad, if that makes sense.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope the changes are great, obviously. Yeah, I guess I'm just an LCS fan that's lost faith
Damn,
as far as good
Blue
format
Jays
changes and good
broken?
schedule changes.
The LCS is going to break Blue Jay. That's crazy.
Bro, they've been breaking Blue Jay. This whole year was like just not a success from the side of I mean, for the LCS it was just schedule changes, but it was a disaster. Let's call it what it is.
Oh, yeah, summer and the holdout and everything, and
Yeah.
a little bit.
And the change to weekdays. Like
Yeah, and
it was bad.
NACL and
Yeah.
yeah. Last
Just
up,
keep piling it on,
yeah,
why
yeah.
don't you?
The
Okay.
last couple points to cover off, the last two were less import players, and that there is going to be a lot of roster turnover because salaries will continue to decline. Oh, and
Yeah.
sorry, and with regards to those imports, if anything, the imports will be switched from being high cost Eastern imports to potentially some minor region imports.
Yeah, I don't really want them to do that. I'm not alone in that, I'm sure. I think most people probably want to see your APAs get more shots, you know? Um, but I mean
Well, they
it
said
is
less
what it is, I
imports.
guess.
Said
Yeah,
less.
yeah, but he said that there could be some lower cost imports, right? So it's
Well,
still
yeah,
imports.
I
But
guess,
yeah,
yeah.
I do think overall less imports, good news. I really do like that. I think it would be I don't necessarily expect teams to do this, but I think it would be more valuable if there was less turnover and the team stuck, stayed together. Like I could see a world where NRG does make a move and replaces Doka. We'll have to see what happens at Worlds, right? But like, as far as just like fandom goes, I think that NRG squad staying all five of them together is really valuable for fans. Could NRG get better if they got a new top laner or a new whatever? I'm sure there's probably some guys that could make the team better. But overall, I think as far as like just fandom goes, I think a lot of people like those five players playing together. So I don't want the turnover part. I just want the less import.
Yeah, the one thing that when it comes to like the when you use the energy example with the kind of being those five players, I feel like it doesn't necessarily always have to be five players. As long as you just have a core of players that are playing for a long time, you kind of
Yeah.
innately will get that. Cloud9 had that with old Cloud9, and there's sort of now the new Cloud9, and Blabber is part of the new Cloud9, and
Blabberfudge Sven.
yeah, you look at Team Liquid and you look at the Core JJ and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
feel like is you kind of have like as long as you have like 2 to 3 core players, I feel like it's pretty easy to retain fans and fandom, especially when it comes to roster turnover. If you're a bottom team and you're constantly swapping out your rosters, over and over and over again, obviously it's going to be difficult to build fandom like that.
Yep. And then the last thing that he said, well, he said salaries
Oh,
will be decreasing. That's no big surprise.
mhm.
And then Riot's going to be rebranding.
Well, that
Um,
is no prediction. Travis says. Apparently, he says this is something that he knows. Um, that the LCS has already and is planning a rebrand.
Yeah, I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but my gut reaction was just like whatever. Like I don't think the last rebrand really did much. So I guess my what I'm wondering is like what is another one going to do? But like maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself. Maybe I should sit back, wait and see what they do before I judge it. But it's just like the last one, I don't remember much of what they did. It didn't feel like the LCS product changed that much. I
Yeah,
know the logo was different.
that's why I feel like this one probably shouldn't be blown out of proportion, because like the rebrand that they did was they just changed the logo, the color of the studio, the setup of the studio, and like they made it the analyst lounge instead of the analyst desk.
Yeah.
So I feel like this quote unquote rebrand might not necessarily go beyond just a new look for the broadcast.
We'll
Like I
see.
feel like
I mean, I'm
rebrand
open
can
to
be a scary word, and people be like, "Oh my god, we're rebranding again." Like, surely that's bad. But I feel like,
I'm not scared of it. I just don't think it's going to do much, but I could be wrong.
but again, I
Uh,
think going back to my previous point of like changing things just to change things can look bad.
yeah.
If you're constantly rebranding your product, then surely you have a bad product. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, the Travis Gafford video was great. Some really interesting stuff there. I hope he makes more. I wanted to do more predictions, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Quick news.
Yes, yes, we got a decent chunk of quick news. First up, something that basically happened as long as a month ago, which happened not too long after our last episode, was M&S got himself into some pretty hot water when he was playing Korean solo queue with Spearshot on his team, and he was telling him to go back to EU. Said, "Go back to your country."
Not a good look. Um. Okay, I'm not going to pretend like I wanted MNS to get kicked because I didn't want him to get kicked. Like, I just think he's another
Unless
dumb league player being another dumb league player.
unless you're in the camp of he should have got kicked so that C9 can get JoJo
For
as
JoJo.
emergency sub. Yeah.
Yeah, true, true. Um, The only thing that I was a little bit concerned of is like, could you imagine if somebody else said that to another individual? Like, there are instances where saying "go back to your country" could look a lot worse. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying here?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I kind of held this opinion when it happened, but I felt like a lot of it just got blown out of proportion, and I feel like obviously MNS is a pro player. He needs to understand that he can't just be, doing things willy-nilly, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
go back to your country is like kind of normal league talk when you're like raging in solo queue.
Is it? That's not normal league
Well,
talk,
for
man. You
like,
don't hear that.
sorry, I shouldn't say like normal league talk. It's normal league talk for like tilters and ragers and stuff like that. And MNS is a known like solo queue tilter. So I
I was
think,
gonna say, if you think that's normal league talk, look out for JNT
well,
250 in your solo queue games,
yeah, I guess
kids.
I guess I was just talking from the perspective of generally toxic people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of toxic shit. It's just that's something that you can't really say. And like, if something like that is ever said again, that sets a precedent that like, you're not going to get kicked from your team. Mind you, they did give him a 15K fine, and that's pretty significant.
Yeah, and
And worst of all,
and he's got to complete
yeah,
educational training on professionalism.
this is five head to me.
MNS going to community
Because
college for a little bit.
if there's anything that a League of Legends player hates most, it's got to be school. Put these guys in school, and that is the worst punishment. MNS would probably rather pay double the fine than go to school if I know a league player, right? He's like, dude, I'll just pay 50K. Just don't make me do algebra. Don't make me learn about physics or anything. Like, that should be the new rule in any toxicity or just in life for the law. Imagine that instead of like a speeding ticket, they're just like, go to school. Like, no one's ever speeding ever again. And I just got to hand it to Riot. It's the first time in my life that I'm like, they're genius. You got to go and do schoolwork. And I think that is the best way forward in any punitive area ever. That's my take.
That should be the default punishment now. Is they got to take some
Yeah.
courses on something.
Murder, sorry, you're gonna have to go learn some nomenclature. Like,
Oh no,
fuck, I'm not murdering
I
anybody
meant for
ever
league
again.
players, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean league
Yeah.
players could murder some people, the unhinged
Yeah.
ones.
Imagine like Riot, if you get reported enough, they just send you homework. Like, fuck, man.
Hmm.
Then again, that you'll actually never get them coming back to play again. So maybe that is the solve to the problem. They just won't do the schoolwork.
Next
Okay,
up,
no, but good fine, good thing. Don't do it again, MNS. Don't be a dumbass.
yeah.
Okay,
I
what
mean,
else?
I guess last thing that I'll say is like, dude, when people started like throwing out that he was like being xenophobic and stuff like that, I was like, dude, we need to like slow the roll here. Like, this is just toxic solo queue talk. Like,
No, but that's what I mean by like this sets a precedent like for because it kind of is though. Like there could be some much worse instances of someone saying go back to your country. Like I'm sure he's just an idiot and isn't really thinking, but like it is xenophobic still.
yeah, by the letter of the law it is, but I think context does matter.
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
Next up, to I feel like we probably weren't planning on talking about this team until potentially after Worlds or during the sort of last part of Worlds where the off season potentially begins. Prince and FlyQuest are no longer happily married. Prince is not going to be on that team anymore. Is he even going to be in the LCS next year at this point? I think is the question people are asking.
I hope he is for a couple of reasons. One, I just like Prince. Two, he had a fucking awesome spring split. Um, and I guess three, he needs to prove himself still. Like the job's not done in LCS. I could totally see him just leaving. Like I even think that's probably likely. I don't think he had a good time here.
I think that's
But
probably what's going to happen.
but I really want him to succeed in the LCS, man. He's a guy that I think a lot of fans really did like, even though it was just 1 year. I think he's someone that people will still cheer for no matter what team he's on. That's why I want him to stay in the league.
I think he's kind of in a similar situation to the kind of 1 year leases that we've seen on some notable imports the last few years. The Perks, the Alfari, the Hansama, the Whippo,
Classic
the whatnot.
boomerang.
Like it's kind of just like a 1 year lease. So I
Yeah.
feel like he's going back to LCK.
Maybe. Maybe. Um Is this good news for FlyQuest? Because clearly it didn't work out with him, but like, there's a lot of hype around this Masu guy.
I mean, maybe if that's the direction that they're going, then yeah, if they believe that he's good enough to be LCS, then yeah, the right move that they did, because Prince was underperforming and he's probably not worth. I mean, you look at the money situation, he's probably making a lot more than Masu, or he'll still be making more than whatever the increase you're probably going to have to pay Masu to bring him into LCS.
I just want to see what this Masu kid can do. Apparently, he's really good. I don't know, let's see it. Like I'm down for any North American players to get their chance. It seems like that would be the obvious play for FlyQuest. But I don't know. It depends on a lot of things. So maybe I shouldn't jump to that conclusion. But I don't know. You hear a lot of hype about him. I've heard Cubby talk about him a million times. I'm ready to see him. Let's go.
Next up, over in the LEC is apparently raising the minimum age requirement to play in the league from 17 and 18. And people, I don't know if this is official, but I think everyone is under the assumption that they're doing that because they're going to introduce alcohol and or gambling sponsors on the
Yeah,
stream next year. I don't know if that's official or if that's just an assumption.
yeah. I haven't seen anything that's official on that. If there is something on that, please let us know in the comment section with a source. But I haven't seen anything official. I do think that's what makes the most sense. I feel bad for players that are 17 and are good
Well,
enough.
the main reason why I feel like this has become a talking point for people is Karamine Corp, who's going to be in the LEC next year. Their best player, their AD carry, I think his name is like Castile. I don't know if that's the correct way to pronounce the name. He's a young French player, and he's 17, so he actually
Is
can't
it
play in LEC.
ILLE?
I think it's Castile or ILLE, one of the two. I'm not sure.
ILLE.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
if it's
so
one or two. I have no idea.
it'll be Castille. I will be the pronunciation there. Um, Yeah, the reason why it sucks is because a lot of look, there's some players that have really long careers and play for 9, 10 years, fine. But sometimes you have really short careers, whether it be LCS, LEC, or whatever. And maybe you are a guy that was only going to be good for 2 or 3 years, and you're taking half of your professional career could be cut out from that now, right? Like it's hard to be a pro player. It's hard to maintain that level. It's hard to keep the drive and play the same goddamn game over and over and over again and keep grinding. Some people can do it no problem and some can't. And so if this Castille kid is one that, only has the juice in him for a couple of years, you might be taking away half of his career from this. And I think that sucks because League of Legends pro careers could be so short. It could be a really significant part of his career. That's why I feel bad there. On the other side of things, the leagues are struggling and they got to make money. The leagues aren't going to exist if they don't start profiting. So I agree with the league doing it. I just feel really bad because it comes at the cost of the player, Like he don't deserve that.
And then also in the LEC, they're apparently going to be introducing some sporting financial regulations, one of which includes a salary cap for the league next year.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about the salary cap kind of maybe once or twice a year for the last few years. And it's already been announced that it's going to be introduced in both the LCK and the LPL. Well, it's already in the LPL, and then it's going to be added to the LCK. So I guess just considering that, not surprising to see it get introduced in the LEC. I feel like as the leagues continue to develop over the years, it'll probably just become the norm. Which
Similar to the raising the age thing, it hurts the players. And again, if anything that the leagues need to do to succeed right now, I'm in favor of. I just don't see this as something that's needed. Because apparently from what I've heard, stop me if I'm wrong, the salary cap is going to be 2 million, but there's only one team currently going above the 2 million thing. So was it that necessary to have one? That's what I don't really understand. Like why was this so necessary?
I didn't actually hear any of that. Did they say which team, or are we just kind of guessing that that's G2?
I don't know which team it was. God, was I hearing this on Hotline League? I don't remember where I was hearing it.
I th-
I'm gonna guess I heard it on Hotline League, but maybe it was the Dive or something.
yeah, I mean,
Normally, the Dive and Hotline League, all these episodes, we're normally recording before all of them. But this time I was able to listen to some episodes before we did this, and I don't remember where the hell I heard it from.
I mean, I think it's safe to assume that that's G2. I guess the reason I say that is because they have the best players and they have very notable players whom you have to pay money. I guess the only
Yeah.
other ones who could be considered is Mad Lions, and the reason I say that is because Hillisang's here for the first time off of Fnatic, who has a pretty historic career. They brought back Karzi, so they're they have guys on new contracts now, which could potentially be better than some older contracts. But I'm
I
not
got
exactly
another
sure
name.
how much their decrease was going on.
There's another team
That what spending in LEC?
that could.
Oh, Vitality, yeah, with
Yeah.
perks. I mean, I
That would be
surely
really funny.
I couldn't imagine that they are just because of there's no way they're paying Photon, Bo, or Kaiser anything.
But how long has it been since he was on Cloud9? It was 2021, right?
I
And
mean,
didn't he
yeah,
sign a
perks
3-year
is
deal?
well. I mean, he's probably on a new contract or something.
He'll probably need one going into next. I don't know this for sure. I didn't look it up, but I thought I remembered Perks being on a 3-year deal. He played one in Cloud9. It could have been 2 and 3 now, so it could have been just this year.
Well,
But
they
maybe
could
it
have
was
also
Vitality.
voided that contract when he got moved off Cloud9 and
Yeah,
then signed a new
I'm
one.
not going to pretend I know how it all works. I don't, but it would be funny though with how poorly they did.
Anyway, I just think this is good for the structure of the league and for the integrity of the league just in general. It's
I guess I don't know. I don't have like a super strong opinion on it. Um, the weird thing is like it hurts the players, you know? And I totally get like right now LCS winter or rather esports winter. So like I get teams are struggling. It's just this doesn't seem like many of the teams are going over it to begin with. It's just something that's going to hurt the players in the long run. And like, do the players get a say in this? Like, can't they just be like, yo, no, like, because I mean we have the LCSPA over here, but they don't got anything from what I understand in Europe.
well, there was something in a Reddit post or it was on Twitter saying that for the LCS to introduce a salary cap, they'd have to like unionize the league or something. I don't know
Mm,
exactly what that is. I think they would have to unionize because, yeah, you 100% would. I do remember that now because every other major sports league has
yeah.
a union.
But you get what I'm saying, yeah?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I think the health of the league is more important than the players' feelings about how they're getting paid, unfortunately. So, yeah, I
Okay.
care more about the league being in a good place financially. If this is setting them up better financially, than the
Yeah,
players
it's
making a little bit
fair to
less.
say the leagues are struggling right now, and without the leagues, the players will make zero. I get it, I get it. So yeah,
You should be the
what's
guy
last?
leading that player union. Then you're advocating for the players.
No, we'll just send Phil Aram over there. He's a beast over here. He'll be beast in both. Last
Uh,
thing was the military thing. Yeah.
yeah. Last up was the Asia Games. If people are, like us, wondering why, well, Jesus, why the hell was this break so long? Part of the reason why was because the Asia Games was going on for the Eastern countries of primarily China and Korea for their league teams to be competing. And Korea came out on top in the Asia Games. I will be honest with you, I watched almost none of the whole thing. I literally only watched the first game because I saw Caedrel make a YouTube video about it. And the LCK like stomped some random country 2-0.
Oh, was China not in it?
Oh, they were, but Korea beat China or something 2-0.
Oh, earlier on
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
tournament or something.
Korea beat China 2-0 in the semifinals.
Oh, so the semifinals was the real finals, is what you're
Yeah,
telling me.
I think it was 2-0. And also it was weird cuz the finals all the like quarterfinals, semifinals, finals were best of 3s, not best of 5s.
Didn't they play on like?
Yeah, they're
This is
playing
coming
on
back to me a
patch
little bit.
13.12.
Yeah, that is bizarre,
Static
man.
Shiv most broken patch Kaisa is what they were playing on.
Imagine playing on a patch from a fucking decade ago to avoid military service. That's so
Yeah.
weird.
Oh yeah,
Which,
sorry.
by the way, full
The
credit to Korea for this. This is five head. This is something else we need to implement over here. The way we should do it though
we
is
don't have
if you
required
finish
military service.
if you finish 10th in the LCS, you should have to go into the military. Suddenly, we got some eyeballs on the product. You know what I'm saying? And I
Oh
think
my
this is just
goodness.
absolute genius. I think we should start to look towards Korea and start to learn, or look towards Riot again with
South Korea will learn from.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sure. That is a very good disclaimer.
Yeah. Not Korea in general.
Yeah, doesn't everyone have to join the military? I shouldn't laugh at that. That's kind of crazy. But
Yeah. But
yeah.
anyways, the starting roster, people didn't know what it was. It was Zeus, Kanavi, Faker, Chovy, Ruler, and Keria. Uh, for those who, for whatever reason, wouldn't know, Zeus is the T1 top laner, Kanavi is the JDG jungler, Faker is Faker, Chovy is the Genji mid, Ruler is the JDG ADC, and Keria is on T1.
Let's go Faker. Did Faker play or did they have Chovy play?
I think Faker only subbed in for one game, and he was.
Good. They
I
gotta rest the
again,
wrist.
I don't know anything about this, but I thought I remembered reading something saying Faker only played one game, and he was only like required to play one game to get the exemption. But I'm
That's
honestly
also
not sure
five head
about
that
that.
they.
I
That's
don't.
also five head that they put him on the roster. They're like, okay, Faker, you rest the wrist. Don't worry, Chovy's got you. And like Chovy, you're responsible for making sure
Yeah,
that Faker doesn't have to go to the military right now. Chovy probably played out of his goddamn mind. I'm not surprised they 2-0'd.
there was like some satire post on the league Reddit after Korea beat China, like a conspiracy theory post saying how like South Korea was like threatening China to like threatening their players to throw the match against Korea so that Faker could get military exemption.
What?
It was just like a random. It was like a joke conspiracy theory, but it was actually a pretty funny post.
If Tactical was forced into the military, what would his role be? Or Kenby? What would Kenby do?
Tactical would
Solo
just.
would be in the fucking trenches. That guy would be full mullet. He'd have like the full like magazine over the shoulder.
That's who Tactical is. He's just the guy on the front line, just going in. He's just running in.
Hmm. Tactical's a psycho. True. Yeah, he'd be hopping in Tristana style. He'd
Yeah.
be what's the Tristana skin that's like she's like a
Gorilla.
that's
Gorilla
the one.
Tristana.
Perfect. And Kenvi, he'd be like well, I don't know what the hell he'd be. I always say I'd be the medic. I'd be the guy that's too afraid. I'd be like, I'll hang out here. Um, when you're screaming for help, I'll try, but I can't promise I'm gonna make it.
You kind of look like the medic in TF2 a little bit.
TF2, I don't know what that looks like. I'll let the camera get a good look at me, and people can decide
I
whether
could
that's
see it.
fake news or not.
I could see you being the medic. TF2 medic.
Okay, I'll take that as a compliment. I don't know if I should, but I'll take it as a compliment.
Just look up
I'd
the
be a
picture.
terrible medic,
Look
man.
it up. Look up the TF2 medic.
I'm like afraid of blood, so I shouldn't have said the medic. I'd be fucking useless. Let's just call it what it is. Maybe I'd be the guy that's like placing the little pawns on the map. I could do that. Okay. Is there anything else to talk about? Because we're talking about nonsense.
Well, I guess I can't remember. Did we talk about what our schedule is going to be for Worlds?
Oh, let's go, Jinter. Thank you for not letting me forget. So the schedule should be actually pretty relatively normal for those that are looking every week. The goal is the same. We always try to get you guys the Monday episodes. That'll be the main goal. Most of our episodes should be on Sundays. The only one will be after Swiss 1 is what you put it on here. Will be on Monday.
Yeah, there's a
Every
bit of a
other
break
episode
in the Swiss stage. There's like a 3-day break in between.
Okay, and that episode we think is going to be recorded on Monday or no?
Yeah, recorded on Monday
So we won't be able to
night.
get the Monday morning content.
So
for
it'll be
those
up
people.
Tuesday morning or late Monday
Okay.
night, early Tuesday morning.
All the other ones we're recording on Sundays. I don't even know what time. Is it normal time?
Probably around 7. I think
Okay.
if anything, it could be earlier, but in all likelihood, it'll probably be at 7.
Okay, so follow twitch.tv/Clown Fiesta Podcast if you guys want to join the live show. Remember, again, to hit subscribe, hit the like button, leave comments. What are you excited for about this world? What is the shit we got wrong? Feel free to call us out. We don't mind being corrected. What else, Jinter? Anything else?
That's about it, man.
It's Worlds time.
It's here,
Let's
baby.
fucking go. It's time. Enjoy Worlds, guys. We will, and hope you do too. This has been episode 140 of the Clown Fiesta Podcast. We'll see you guys next week.